Everybody, I'm Elise as Another Truth on YouTube. Thank you so much for stopping by and listening to this commentary only video. I don't have the greatest speaking voice, and I'm still quite nervous when I speak anyway. So don't expect this to be an overly sensationalized and rehearsed commentary piece, because it isn't. And everything that I say here really is based on my opinions, perspectives, experience, my level of skills and interpretation of the information that is coming out. Feel free to do your own research, to look at things, to examine it from your own perspective, through your own eyes, so to speak. I have done this video a few times, and each time I've done it, like with all of these sensitive type videos, I just get more angry every time I do it. And then I start getting upset and frustrated. And I still have to learn to separate my emotions from this. But it's hard to do that when there's a lot of injustice around this situation. I first want to state, before I get into what I perceive as the manipulation of Colleen Ballinger, is that there was a live stream video by a content creator named Papa Gut. I'm going to be fair and honest. I didn't sit through that 5-hour video. I am not going to spend 5 hours of my time listening to someone destroying a victim's testimony and whatever else. I just cut to the parts where I thought would be relevant in my own discussion and listening to what other people have to say in it. I think that his assessment of this is ignorant, and that whoever is in his life giving him this kind of information, he's either not interpreting it well, or he's deliberately maligning it to boil down the term of grooming to an essence that doesn't have meaning, that is detrimental to victims of these types of experiences. The fact that he had the nerve and the audacity to do that on his platform, to denigrate victims, and having no experience, no empathy, no care at all, because he is maligned and manipulated by Colleen Ballinger, that her attractiveness, the fact that she's a woman, and that perhaps she's a Caucasian woman, and a woman that is powerful, and that makes raunchy comedy surrounded and marketed to essentially minors and young adults, shows the level of this person's character. Now, that is my opinion. It angers me how men like this enable people's bad behaviors, and especially to do so to attempt to malign victims who speak out. These are not the type of people to trust or to listen to. This isn't the type of person that can be relied upon to have a say. In my opinion, people like this shouldn't even have a platform on this platform, or any social media platform where there are targeted and vulnerable people. I'm not saying do a mass cancellation or anything like that. That is just my opinion of this one creator. Now, if we go on to Colleen Ballinger's behavior, it's been addressed over and over again. in my opinion, my perspective, my layperson's opinion, my understanding personally of what grooming is, of being someone who has been groomed, I believe that she has groomed a minor or more than one minor to do her bidding. I believe that Adam McIntyre is a classic, has experienced a classic type of grooming. I think he was groomed. I think that Colleen used her power, her money, her own personal boundaries, that no one can cross over that with criticism, because she has blockaded that with a level of privilege very few people have. She's used this power dynamic against her victims to be able to get people to do what she wants. If you look at her videos and all of her sobbing, nonsensical sobbing about especially any criticisms that she has received, that people don't always appreciate her nasty, disgusting behavior or her comedy skit, and uses other people's fights and experiences to protect herself, to cushion herself against those things. When I reflect back to her video that she did some weeks ago, where it was some clickbait video, but then I had interpreted that as, well, maybe there is an end here. It is quite diabolical. Now, I haven't watched any timeline video or anything of the stuff going on with Colleen and how these things have come out and when. I find it that she used, I thought this video was just to, manipulate people into thinking she's a comedian and that people are against her because she's a female comedian. It was far more diabolical than that, in my opinion. I think that this was a means. I think that she knew the train smash was coming. I think she knew this was coming about. And that particular Miranda video that she did was another way to deflect her responsibility of using minors to help her keep that nasty character alive. And it's not the first time that she has embroiled minors into her very adult comedy. Now, if her content were just adult restricted, if it was just something with adults and no children were used, that would be one thing. But the fact of the matter is, she has used children in many ways, minors and young adults, to bring her to this point of her success. Now, whether or not that's against the law, I don't know, because there aren't very many protections for children, especially children in certain types of labor forces. And children in social media who are forced into these things, who are groomed into these type of experiences, don't have the rights to have privacy, to have um, some dignity, personal space, or anything like that, and they're not even paid for it. People who do this, it's to enrich the adults. And when people come to defend these adults, they're not looking at children as children. They're not seeing how children are affected by this. They may not be groomers themselves, but they're thinking in their mind that children are at the same adult level they are and can decide, make these decisions on their own. So there are others more diabolical who know better. I think Colleen knows better. I think Colleen, in my opinion, knew exactly what she was doing in all of this. The more and more I look at the things in past videos and stuff like that. So what Papa Gut didn't realize, that grooming comes in stages. Anybody can be groomed. There are financial romance scammers. They groom people into thinking, oh, you're beautiful, you're wonderful, we'll do this and do that. They deliberately attack vulnerable people because they look at them and say, okay, well, they can't get anybody else, they'll believe me. I think that there's grooming in all kinds of situations. Grooming of minors to either get free labor, sexual favors. And I say sexual favors very loosely because there is no such thing as a child consenting to this, because they're not at that stage of their lives to consent to it. And sometimes marketing and advertising groom people from the time that they're young to believe that getting old is a bad thing, that getting older you'll lose your opportunities if you don't start taking care of yourself now. And they groom older people into thinking that they have to rewind the clock 20 years on their appearance. So, but for minors specifically in the realm of grooming, they don't know what's happening. They don't always know. I shouldn't say they don't know at all. I don't care how intelligent or sophisticated they are. They're still minors. Even if people say that they're intelligent in this. When Papa Gut looked at Adam McIntyre, he's not thinking about the undue pressure Adam had endured as a minor, or the inappropriate scenarios that Adam and other children and other minors and young adults have experienced in these inappropriate chats in these videos, what they might be experiencing. Because a child isn't going to recognize right away it's grooming. They're not going to recognize that. And sometimes some people don't accept it at all. Some people don't know it at all. Even when they get older, they don't realize it. I think Adam came to that conclusion at a younger age than I understood when I realized I was groomed, because I was well into adulthood when I realized I was groomed. Because I was also groomed. And part of the grooming experiences is to keep things secret. People use their power, their money, authority, the fact that they're adults, and children are made to think that they're adults, that they must know what they're doing, and children might feel disarmed, and children have to carry the burden of shame. They have to carry the secrets of adults who do these terrible things to them. They have to carry the emotional load of emotionally disturbed adults, it is not the job of the child to do that. It's the job of the adults to recognize that boundary. But some of them, they intentionally know that, and they intentionally go after them. And I think that Colleen is that type of groomer, in my opinion. She manipulates people. She makes people feel like they're loved, they're special, they're important. It irks me when some content creators say I love you to their audience, because when I hear it, I'm like, you don't fucking love me. You don't care about me. It's just a way to kind of keep that, it's part of that parasocial relationship to keep people coming back and feeling appreciated. But sometimes, minors need the direction of responsible adults. To say that children are already adults and forced into these adult situations, and then to blame the children or the victims of this because they got caught up in it, instead of blaming Colleen for being inappropriate, for not respecting their boundaries and where they are developmentally. Now, I've grappled with this in my own mind, thinking, is she capable of understanding that? Is she emotionally stunted? It could be that she herself is emotionally mature and emotionally underdeveloped. I shouldn't say stunted, I should say underdeveloped. Okay. And she may not know, but listen, I'm emotionally disturbed. I have emotional dysregulation. I'm emotionally immature. I don't groom kids. I'm not grooming anybody. Transparency is important. There's a very strict boundary you handle around kids. Because I will tell you, when I was a child, my first experience not feeling like I was protected. Now, a lot of other things have happened, but this one experience, I was accosted on a city bus by a drunk person. And yes, I was accosted. He put his arms around me. He smelled like alcohol. He had a red face. And my parent didn't do anything to stop it. I was so uncomfortable, so anxious. Sometime after that, if I understand the chronology correctly, because sometimes memory can be a tricky thing, I remember in school, at least in maybe it was the first or the second grade, it was sometime after this other experience, we had a substitute teacher, and I was so terrified of him. I was so terrified. I judged him based on his appearance. Okay? Because he had that red face. But he did nothing wrong to me. He wasn't inappropriate. But he just scared me. No one told me. No one sat down with me and explained what had happened should not have happened. That disarming feeling, okay, when someone is approached by a predator, that first sense of grooming, that first sense of something going wrong. These adults bank on that. They bank on that shock. They bank on that. They do that to be able to slip in. Now, people can do it through abrupt physical contact or pretending to be friends with somebody, or they can do it by sending them unused lingerie or underwear. and not having the decency to say, wait, this is not appropriate. Let me send a weird gift that's appropriate for a child. Maybe like an oven mitt, with her signature on it, or, um, a t-shirt that's appropriate, or something, a gift of some sort, because the other gift was not appropriate. She didn't employ that. She knew that. How could she not know this? She's been doing this weird shit around minors for a long time. Long before all of this happened, there was a video that came out about 5 or 6 years ago. I want to link it in the description, but I'm so afraid because one of the Ballinger's young children from the Ballinger family was in this, and their face isn't obscured. So I don't know if I want to replay that. I want to put that in the link. But there is that video. There is a video out there. And the content creator does begin with the letter N. I don't think I'm going to link it because I'm too afraid. But it shows one of the young Ballinger kids, and Colleen doing suggestive stuff, not to the child, but in front of the child for the camera. This is a joke to Colleen. She doesn't understand that doing these types of things, it's very suggestive and it's very disarming because children don't understand adult manners. And the fact that we keep continually, as a society, put the responsibility of parents' problems, of people's problems on children is ridiculous. But this goes beyond just that. It is that she has expressed a lot of inappropriate sexual innuendo. And people were calling it out for a long time. And I'm even ashamed because I allowed my adolescent son to watch her. And I think she's especially toxic to people in the LGBTQIA plus spectrum and children of color and so on. I think that her best friend is also a groomer, and not because he's gay. I have a gay child. Okay, my gay child has to experience a lot more discrimination now. He's essentially labeled as a pedophile because he's gay, but he's in a relationship with another man close to his age, and they have a family life together, and they take care of cats together. They have a life, a normal family life. And he's not that way. He respects his boundaries around people. He has good character and a good backbone. But Colleen's friend, Kody, has done the same inappropriate crap. And they both knew that they were making these videos and children were accessing it. Now, I think that, Colleen might have taken advantage of Kody because of his vulnerability. I don't think she has very much respect for homosexual people, for gay people, or anybody else, or trans people. She has very little respect for them whatsoever. And she has very little respect for people of color. Very, very little respect for minors and young adults and people who work for her, who are not in her inner circle, who are not part of her family. And even then, she doesn't show very much respect. But she gets away with it. And she gets away with it because she is a, a pretty Caucasian woman with money and power, and she will get free passes all the time. Do you think she's hemorrhaging support? No. Despite what other content creators might say that she's hemorrhaging um, supporters, no, that's not the case. She's a very different case because she is a woman and she is pretty and she uses her emotions to manipulate people. I'm not going to say she doesn't experience emotional disturbance or mental health issues or anything like that. Obviously, something is psychologically broken with her. And I don't think that she is willing to go in depth with that in her treatment. I think she's still looking for people to make excuses for her. Now, I came across another video. Um, I will, if I can find it again, I'll link it. It was a recent one taken this month, and I think it was, um, I'm not sure if it was a video that was part of one of her rescheduled shows this year. It was taken in Colorado, and when I looked at the Miranda Sings um, performance dates, it looked like the Colorado one in April was changed for June, and I'm wondering if that one was that rescheduled show. And it just showed like the first minute and a half of it. I'm not sure what the purpose of that was, but it clearly does show. I mean, it does show. It's like, and I don't know if Colleen does this in every show. If she does this in every show, fine, but it shows she still has her fans. She still has millions of subscribers to her channels and has over 1 billion views collectively and so on. More than that, okay? Saying, I'm virtually untouchable. I can't be held accountable for my disgusting and horrible behavior. Now, if she indeed is still doing shows, you know, and it's clear that her not saying anything in the last 2 weeks, well, I mean, it could be that her legal team or her management team told her not to say anything. It's possible to come out and say, listen, don't attack these people at all. And the audacity that people were even thinking that she should or she is suing victims of this. If that's the case, then there should be support for the victims to find their own legal support in this. And that they have advocates, social workers, mental health teams backing them up every step of the way. And Colleen's situation is a symptom of a greater problem we have here, especially in the United States, that we simply don't protect our children against these kinds of things. Children have very few rights in this country. They're only seen as half people because they're not making money. And if they are making money for their parents, they don't have any rights within that, or very few of them. Unfortunately, my state of Massachusetts made it on the D list on the Human Rights Watch as far as protections for minors. The only thing that I would say is positive is that the age of consent in Massachusetts is 18. It doesn't account, though, for a lot of the other human rights abuses that our state collectively allows on children. And I think there's a lot of focus on adults' rights, but we also have to do better in children's rights. In my community, they are doing they're lowering the voting age, and they're inviting children, minors, to participate in their own circles, to have a say on certain political matters. And I think that it is the right way to go from what I've read and from what I understand in the process. As I'm getting more involved in volunteer work in the political system and in other committees, that it's positive, because it's about time that the old thought of um, children should only be looked at and not heard, those days are over. And even adults reflecting on their childhoods, reflecting on some of the things that happened, there should be a space available for that kind of dialogue and discourse. And I think a lot of people are coming forward. I've had to do it with my father on some things. My children have had to address some things to me. It's part of that dialogue. It's part of the process of healing. It's part of the process of not handling the adult burdens of things they should have never handled. In general, I'm speaking generally and personally, of course. And so it is important. It is important that we stop, try to do our best to think about what children might be experiencing, what children might be going through, and start to listen to them more. It doesn't mean that we can't be a positive influence on them. I mean, I'm not going to discipline anybody else's child. That would not be my responsibility. But if I'm going to do anything in human rights, if I'm going to do anything in making certain decisions, I have to consider their accessibility, their safety, those things. It's not just an adult world. It's a world with all different kinds of people in it. Um, and a lot of people are on board with that. And I think that is allowing children to have a say in what goes on in the political process, what's going on with them from their understanding and perspective, will hopefully kind of counteract some of the adults making very inappropriate decisions for children, especially with gender reassignment care and reproductive rights and so on. You may disagree with me all you want. And no, I'm not a pervert or weird or anything like that for saying that. I'm thinking in the terms of social well-being, health-wise, and things like that. And it's not up to me to make decisions for other people's children or anything. I'm just saying that there should be more emphasis on children's rights. Look at what other parts of the world are doing, because we have a mass problem. And it's not just a United States problem, it's a global problem with children being groomed and trafficked and used for adult conquests, for adult motivated activity and things like that. We need to start supporting our children and caring for our children. So, if that said, I mean, I don't know what else to say after this other than, if you're a parent allowing your children to see Colleen, to see Miranda Sings or Colleen Ballinger, I implore you to take a step back and think about some of the things that I've said, or think about the things that other people have said. But principally, do your own research on what grooming is really about. Look at the history. Look at the impact it might have on your children. Look at the research involving children's rights. And listen to the experiences of victims, because it is far more complex than a person who is a woman who's a comedian, but it's not about that. As much as she said that that was a problem for women comedians, older adult comedians, because Colleen was fighting back in that video I talked about, where it said Miranda Sings is quitting or saying goodbye to Miranda or whatever, that clickbait nonsense. She brought that up, and Colleen said that she is a supporter of women. I don't see her standing up for trans women or poor women or girls who might be influenced by what she says and does. Do you think that she cared about that girl she pulled up on stage? I believe her name is Becky. I'm not sure her full TikTok name. I think it is Becky. Pulling her up on stage, putting her in a vulnerable position, in a very inappropriate and vulnerable position, disarming this person with this character that is predatorial. In the situation Becky was, and then having to go home that night feeling completely disarmed and traumatized from this, essentially being leered at by disgusting men, almost like she was being blamed for that situation, because that's what these adults do. Then they also tag team victimizing children. But Colleen just doesn't care. And she doesn't care about her fan base. She doesn't care about anybody but herself. Her fans spend an exorbitant amount of money for her shows. As far as I'm concerned, the prices for some of these shows, I mean, it's cost prohibitive for a lot of people. Okay? But fans do spend money on that. Certain types of fans spend money then on that. Parents spend money for tickets to see her. Just keep supporting a woman who is damaging minors, inviting minors in this. The show should not be centered around minors, but that is how she was able to build her empire, by that way. And when people are like that, they're not very talented in the first place. I hate to say that. And before people come after me, not that it really matters, but I am a Caucasian woman that just turned 50. You may say, well, what the hell do you have to offer? What I have to offer is what I have to offer in my community of myself, and in a way that is healthy and helpful to others, taking responsibility for myself, being of service to others the best that I can be without burning out, being a good representative, and behaving better, getting out in the world more, participating, using my own small gifts and talents. I'm not envious of Colleen. Colleen is technically middle-aged herself. And it doesn't matter. We're people through the course of our whole lives. And it doesn't matter the stage. And ageism is a terrible human rights violation within itself. But I just want to say that I don't want to be in Colleen's situation right now. I have enough of my own problems, but I don't have those problems. I don't want to be in Colleen's situation. I don't want what she has. I don't want her mindset. I don't want to be in the position she is in. There is nothing that I see that is positive in her influence whatsoever. Nothing. If she were a better person, yeah, I could appreciate it. And at one time, I did appreciate the fact that at least she said she built herself up. It looked like that before she had kids. But I wasn't aware. I was maybe not willing to see it, or not seeing it, or not understanding it, that she had built up her empire through the support of children and unpaid people. Shame on me. Shame on me. Shame on me for that. And this is before I even understood the level of Adam McIntyre's experience. And for that, I'm sorry to him and to others. But had I become aware of that, I would have done something a lot sooner. And I apologize. But I will never, ever denigrate a victim's experience if I become aware of it, whatever the situation is. Anyway, I'm going to go now. I will try to get a video after my training on Tuesday about trauma and see if I can transfer any of that knowledge into this situation, what I learned, without giving a lot of details away, if I'm permitted to do so, because I don't want to use that as a means to go after someone on YouTube. It's specifically provided because of a committee that I'm applying to be on, and it's for a specific situation. But I think that, trauma is an issue, and especially an issue here where targeted and marginalized communities are made as the center of jokes and bad behavior and manipulated into believing that's all that they're worth and so on. So I think there might be some relevance there. But I'll let you know. Thank you for listening. Take care of yourselves. Bye.